Today's episode of the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast is brought to you by BioPro, Hidden House Coffee, and Next Gen Peptides. Enjoy the show.
It hit me like a ton of bricks where he said, you guys are who you say you are. We're out in the middle of the woods. You're not acting a different way. You're not cussing up a storm out here. You're not like acting any ways. Like, it's like, I feel like you guys are what you do on a podcast. And I was like, well, yeah. But we didn't understand the power in that.
Yeah.
Because we both had fantastic fathers. And when my dad was on a business trip, he would call us to say goodnight.
Yeah.
So me as a dad now, I call my kids to say good morning, good night. And it just hit me because I was like, oh my gosh, like the power of a father is so powerful. And what we thought was more normal is what we're discovering with I would say 1 out of like 3 or 4 guests is not normal.
Right.
And it makes me even feel more empowered to...
The amount of like men that were sexually abused as a kid and like didn't have, father figures and didn't have good parenting styles or were, emotionally abused as a kid is actually very common in what we grew up with like a fairly blessed childhood is uncommon. And now it's like...
Well, I've seen multiple interviews where, like, people who have abducted, abused children, in multiple instances, they asked, interviewed them. They asked them, what, is there a type? Is there a situation? Like, what do you look for? And it's like when when perpetrators are looking to manipulate or to harm or to, molest children, they look for a family dynamic with an absent father or a passive father or, a father that's not present. Like that's the number one thing that they look for.
It makes me so mad. You said on one of your interviews, I'm sure you've said it hundreds of times, but one of them you said basically that you went into the agent or the director or producer, whoever's office, and they asked you about your childhood. And then you answered like how you didn't have a dad.
Yeah. I mean, So I walk into his office and he asked me 3 questions. How did you grow up?
Or how'd you grow up? Yeah.
Why are you in LA and what do you hope to accomplish? And it was a value, like a value proposition where, man, what is it that you were missing from your life that you don't have, that you needed? Now I can extract this information from you so that I can use it against you. What is an aspect of weakness in your life that I can extract so that I can use it to manipulate you, to get you to do what I want for my good?
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Ay. All right, kick us off.
I thought we were already going.
I know, we're pretty much going, yeah.
Well, hey guys, welcome to the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. We're already rolling. We're just going to keep it going. I'm going to start it from there. Today we have a very special guest, Joshua Broome. Josh, thank you for being here. This is a long time coming.
I know. We already kicked the day off. It was a great day. It was a good morning.
I want to say that you, so you don't know this because I haven't told you yet, but Ben and I we really took this seriously about a year ago.
Give or take, yeah.
Yeah, about a year ago. And, we decided we're going to invest into doing this podcast a little bit higher level than we were doing it. And I literally just DM'd you out of nowhere. We had like maybe 2,000 followers at that time, if that. And I DM'd you and a bunch of other dudes, and you were one of the first people to ever respond that I was like excited, like I wanted to have on our podcast. And you answered right away. And I told him, dude, there's no way this was going to happen. There's no way he's going to answer. And, for those of you listening, like the conversation that we had just over, Instagram text, you are that person we were talking about it earlier with Ben, like you are the person that you say you are. And it was, we didn't have, we still don't have the followers for you to be here. It makes no sense for you to be here especially when I first asked you and you said yes. And a year later, we couldn't make it work at that time, either one of us. But a year later, you're here, man, and I'm so excited to have you on. So thank you,
honored to be here
for coming.
Yeah,
and we get I feel like this is one of the first unique ones we've done too, because we've spent the whole day with you. We don't do that.
Yeah.
But also we had a radical morning. I was really stoked. He came and spoke at our men's breakfast. And man, that was rad. I think that was the coolest way we could have kicked off a new year. Everyone's always about resolutions and all that fun stuff, but like to see how many people did show up with the amount of people that were gone, dude, if this would have been like a quote unquote normal weekend, not a holiday weekend, that we would have had well over 100. And for the size of our church, like that makes me like so proud. And so I think proud, but also happy to just see like what God's doing in our little space.
I think just across the nation, we're seeing a hunger for authenticity.
Yeah.
We see, things happening that we want to change, don't know how to change. So, I mean, it's just interesting. Like the beginning of the year, it's like, man, the whole like new year, new you, and so many times you'll create a, what's your New Year's resolution?
Yes.
And I'm just like, man, for me, it's always like become more like Jesus.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, I'd like to be, fitter or, write another book or whatever it is that I'm doing. But I think a lot of times, like when those resolutions that you make, you don't follow through with them. It's not because like it wasn't the right one or whatever. It's like at the end of the day, like because of our sin, it's really difficult to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And anything that's worth anything is on the other side of obedience, discipline, and consistency. And none of those things you can do in a passive way.
Yeah.
And
I know, that's crazy.
I was just telling, so normally, and this is actually going to be funny / almost sound hypocritical, but earlier this week, I created a PDF we created a PDF together, a version of, we talked about it a million times. Like every year and every quarter, I kind of do a little like game plan with me and my wife. Like, hey, how's the marriage going?
Yeah.
How's our family going? What are our goals for this and this and this? And I was telling, I was at a Bible study on this Saturday morning, which is actually funny. Most of the guys are out in Texas. And I was like, I normally have goals set by this time like of the year. And every time I go to set my goals down, there's like like my brain won't work. And I keep getting like these two different things. Learn to run after me as hard as I'm running after you, or towards me as hard as I'm running towards you, and learn to love people better.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are the only two things and I've done this for years. And those are like the only two things that every time I sit down to write, those are the only two things I can think of.
Yeah.
And it was like, I was telling him this morning, I was like, it's awesome and also almost frustrating that I'm like, no, but I want to make goals.
Yeah.
And it's just not happening.
Yeah. Or my wife, she loves the, acrostics or the acronyms where like all the SMART goals. You know? And we always try to do that stuff, like short-term goals, long-term goals, like what are our family goals, ministry goals, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think goals are great, but like at the end of the day, it's like, man, am I doing the next right thing? And am I pursuing Jesus? And I think if you do those two things, everything else will kind of fall in place.
Yeah. If it makes you feel better, I haven't even thought about a goal. Just so you know.
Yeah, well, I don't know, dude, you're not that busy, doing coffee shops and new businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you lazy bum.
Honestly, I am a lazy bum. I think since we're talking about goals in a new year, I think honestly this is the first year in a very long time that I'm going into a year with no expectations, in the sense of I just want to start the year the way I ended the year, because I've, not to toot my own horn, but I've been very intentional this year with myself.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect by any means, and obviously I have a lot to like continue to work on and grow and change and fix, but my goal is to simply just keep doing that.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I don't have like this, by April 1, since it's second quarter, we need to grow our business by 300,000 in sales, or we need to do that. I'm just like, bro, I'm here. I'm just like, I feel like this is the most present I've been in my own life in all areas of it.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of
dude,
weird.
I want to say I'm very proud of you, because the amount of change that's happened in you over this last year is incredible. And there's not many people that got to witness it like I did, because just because of we get to do this podcast together and the way we do life together. Not many people get to do that. Yeah. Can you stop rubbing your pants while I'm giving you a compliment?
Keep going, my bad, dude.
So speaking of, no, I was kidding. But yeah, I'm super proud of you, dude.
I appreciate it. I think, and we'll get off the subject, but it's very easy for people to, like we were saying, like get up on a stage or get up on a platform or get up and do something when there's eyes on or a camera on or a microphone on. But like the real work that it takes to genuinely like put into your walk with the Lord, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your children, your work, like the work that the people don't see unless they're in your daily life is like, dude, it's hard. I think that's what people should worry about in a resolution.
Yeah, and I think it's like we live in a day and time where it's like, because of social media, it's like, I was reading something that I found so interesting just around like people sitting around tables. It's like my big thing like in our house is like no one gets up from the dinner table until everyone gets up from the dinner table.
Yeah.
And I was reading where like the average like dinner in America now lasts 7 minutes, where in 1970 it was 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And just like sitting around the dinner table, like, no phones, no like whatever.
Yep.
And just sitting there, just like communicating, talking about their day, like goals, dreams, aspirations, hurts, all that stuff. But I think that for me, just like getting back to that is like, it's just so important.
How do you do that with 4 boys that age?
Well, it's not easy. Well, so like with Abel, like Abel is, he's a different animal. Like Abel is never, he's never like, until he was like a year and a half, he's never had a bottle.
Yeah.
So it's just like breast milk only. And never sat in a high chair. He was either sitting on mom's lap or now standing in his own chair. So the way that we don't get up from the dinner table, it's like, we just like kind of.
There's a circumference around the chair.
We just let him. Well, he stays in chairs, and then so our dinner table, it's like it's chairs, and then on one side it's a bench.
Yeah.
And like the 3 older boys want to sit beside each other on the bench, but he just kind of makes his,
Yeah, I come. So my wife's comes from a big Italian family. I come from a Hispanic family, and that's been our thing. Like we've always talked about, like, hey, no. Occasionally we'll do the TV on, like here and there, but is having dinner together, like sitting down, asking our son and daughter, what was your favorite part of today?
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of this week? And watching them grow and seeing their answers change throughout, like as they're getting older, like for, I found a crayon, and now it's like, we got to spend time with Nana and Papa at their house doing this. And it was cool. Cause then we got to take that to my parents' house, where their role was always set at the table. And we just, it was a great moment.
Yeah.
But,
and then for me, it's like, that's something that was important to me. Cause as we get into my story, but there's, the drastic contrast of my family dynamic versus my wife's family dynamic, like super different.
Yeah.
Where like with her, like I could give her, I could buy her a Bentley or give her a flower from my yard, and her appreciation level would be the same. Mm-hmm. So like gifts, she appreciates gifts, but that's not like, it's like so far down the list of her like love language. Yeah. And then also even like words of affirmation, like appreciates them, but like not, because she has a lot of secure attachment. Like I feel like her family, if you take the Hallmark channel like on a TV and you just turn the TV sideways and just shake it, and like her family would fall out, and in mine very different. But I say that to say, like, I never, like outside of like being at my grandma's house, like we never had a kitchen table. We lived in apartments and we ate off of, plates at the couch or whatever. So like for me, like very simplistic things have like drastic importance, and where it's like I try not to make it about me or like to fix what I didn't have, but to instill something in them And it's just important. And like for her, it's just like, of course we eat at the table.
Yeah.
What else
Yeah.
would we do?
Because that was normal for her. Yeah. My wife didn't have that either. Her dad was in and out, drugs, all that stuff. And so I'm again, as I'm getting older, I'm beginning to just be so much more open with the fact of like, hey, like I had a very unique, very special childhood. And it's making me, now that I'm almost 40, appreciate the things that I do have with my family even more now. Like you would think I would have appreciated it my whole life.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I didn't, but I definitely took it for granted.
Yeah.
And something as simple as like the table, right? Like that's a rule for my wife. It's we have dinner at the table because I'm gone 2 to 3 nights a week for training jiu-jitsu, but the other night she's like, you're at that table.
Yeah.
And, you know, she'll have to at times like check me sometimes and be like, why are you on your phone? That's the rule. And I was like, oh shoot, sorry, my bad.
Yeah.
You know, like as I'm waiting, like, for them to finish, I'll just, let me grab this real quick, or let me text Jordan about nothing important. And then she'll be like, oh, she actually pulls my own sarcasticness now. And she'll be like, oh, are you a brain surgeon? Like, do you have to go operate right now? And I'm like, no, touche.
Yeah.
Caleb
It's funny
goes,
because like our kids will do the same thing to us. It's like, Dad, no phones at the table. I'm like,
his daughter checks him with that too.
hard, dude, like hard. Because like, but it's so cool to see. And I gave her permission to do it. You know, like earlier this year, we went through a pretty nasty employee lawsuit. Like it got pretty nasty. For me, and obviously Jordan was right there with me through all of it. But it was spiritual. It was a spiritual attack on myself and for Jordan, for everyone that was involved, but specifically like me and my family, right? And I just remember like I would get so stuck, you know, because I was texting Jordan and our HR manager and like all these things, right? And then it came to a point where like my daughter would be like, Dad, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Like this is important.
Yeah.
But what she heard is like, oh, it's more important than spending time with me right now.
Yeah.
And so, you know, she'd be like, Dad, what are you doing? Because there was times where I obviously wasn't doing that, right? You're just aimlessly in the trap of social media and you're just catching up because you haven't had a second.
Yeah.
And then so I'll never forget when I shared that story with you. Like I gave her permission to ask me like, Dad, like, are you working or are you on, you know, social media?
Yeah. And I think that's such a great teaching moment to like, for them to be able to decipher like, what is the difference of urgent and important?
Yeah.
And it's like, if I treat important things like they're urgent, you know, it's like, man, that could be problematic for me as I get older.
Yeah. And she actually did this, 3 nights ago, whatever, the night before New Year's Eve. I was doing something and I think I was like trying to make sure we were good for today. So I was like texting like Pastor Keith and some of the other people at church. I just didn't want to forget. And so she asked me, she's like, oh, Dad, is that important right now? And I said, actually, yes, it is, sweetheart. And I'm going to do this one thing and then I'm going to get off. And she's like, okay, perfect. But it was like so cool that she was able to learn, you know, because it wasn't dinner time. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, you know, I got home from work and, you know, her seeing me get home at 1 o'clock because I took a half day. She doesn't understand. Like it's still technically a work day, but I'm choosing to be here.
Yeah.
But the learning lesson in the importance.
I really like that you do that with her. Like I don't know why it just clicked and it hasn't a million other times that we've talked about this, but my dad once told me, because the way that they raised us, they gave us a lot of like, not a lot of say in a bad way, but a lot more than a kid should get. And I asked my dad once, like they like every year, I was homeschooled a lot. So they were asking me every year, like, okay, what do you want to do? Do you want to go to public school? Do you want to go homeschool? Or do you want to go to private school? Like, what do you want to do? And obviously like they could pull rank and do whatever they wanted, but they gave us the choice. And multiple times where like I said, I actually want to homeschool because I got to cool homeschool where you like ride motorcycles and snowboard and stuff.
Yeah.
Where my mom, I feel like it was beyond her capacity, but she did it anyway to make it happen. And I asked my dad one time, I was like, hey, why did you give us so much say? And he goes, because I'm raising an adult. He's like, that's why we never did baby talk at our house. He's like, because you're a child for such a short period of time, but you're an adult the rest of your life. And I only have this much time to instill how to make good decisions out of you. And I was like, and it's moments like that where you give your daughter the ability to check you as an adult in a respectful way, that it teaches them how to interact when they get older and make those right decisions, and to understand too when like you're wrong. Like, I'm wrong. You know, like I had to apologize to my son the other day. I was like, hey, the way that Dad reacted was wrong. And I think it's going to help him later on in life go, it's, one, give me more grace when I mess up. And two, go, it's okay to mess up because my dad's done it and he knows how to own it. And then you learn from it and move on.
I think that's so important. It's like how you respond to when you blow it. It preaches such a powerful message. It's, someone that I look up to tremendously is John Bevere, and he's become a friend and a mentor. And Addison, his oldest child, is one of my best friends. And just talking to Addison and Arden, his two oldest, just talking with them, it's like that they essentially said the same thing. I was like, man, your dad, like killing kryptonite, like gave me like language for much of what I do today regarding combat like unwanted sexual behavior. But what is something that he instilled in you, or when you look back in retrospect, like what made him a good dad to you? And both of them in two separate conversations said exactly the same thing. Because they're Italian and hot-tempered and passionate. Sometimes they would do or say or act in a way that was not unbecoming of themselves. And when they did, they would own it. And they would sincerely and intentionally repent and apologize. And that stuck with them. And it's like, man, it allowed me to understand that it was okay to make mistakes, but to own it.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's just so powerful.
The owning it. My bad parent fail. Do you remember when I shared, I like fully just responded out of just...
Oh, the vacuum thing?
The vacuum?
Yeah.
So my daughter, I was trying to vacuum out our Sprinter, and I asked my daughter to go grab this little white vacuum, right? She grabs the big vacuum. And my response in the moment, because I was already just dealing with some other stuff, was like, why did you bring me that? And I like never will forget the look on her face. And she's like, wait, well, you asked me to get the vacuum. My response, awful, right? And then my wife, I just felt the laser beam eyes, poking out from outside the car. And I was like, oh no, I got to own that. But I waited a couple minutes, kept doing what I was doing, pulled her aside. I was like, hey, like that was so wrong of me. I am so sorry. I have no excuse. Like, do you forgive me? And she's like, yeah, of course, Dad. And so I was cleaning out the car on 2 nights ago for Laura to take them. And they went to the beach, so the car was just filthy. I said, Cashy, can you go grab me the white vacuum? And she turns around, looks at me, and she's like, the small one, Dad? Or the big one? Like, and I was just like,
you'll get to meet his daughter tomorrow, dude. She's probably one of my favorite humans. And because she's just hilarious. The things that come out of her mouth are just so good. They're so good.
It's a trip. I forget so much. Last night at the wedding, one of our friends said, he's like, how is your daughter 6? Like, because his son was like 5.
She's like a 30-year-old in a 6 body.
It's bizarre, but it just made me laugh, and she laughed. And I was like, hey, I apologize. And she was like, yeah, but you still did it. And I'm like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to tie some of your story into this, but like genuine question, and I hope it's not.
I'm offended already.
Yeah, good. I think it's going to be very beneficial for people because like there's a lot of men that come to us and go, hey, I never had a good father.
Yeah.
And I never had a good father figure. And how do I know that I'm going to be a good dad?
Yeah.
Like, where do I learn that from?
Yeah.
And you can share probably a little bit of your background in that portion, but like, where did you grab things? Obviously the Bible, right, is part of it, but where did you grab things from for your parenting style and to be the dad that you are? Like,
so for context, my mom and dad were both 15 when I was born, and my dad lived in the same town, but was never in my life. I think maybe I had like 3 to 5 conversations with him, and where it's like, I don't really recollect it, where maybe he'd reached out or wanted or, to connect with me, and just didn't stick, didn't work out. But then I grew up knowing who he was, where he was, and my mom worked at a restaurant that was adjacent to the convenience store that my grandfather, his dad owned, and he was there often, and I would see my dad, who was never in my life, or in my home. And just growing up that way, where it's like, man, how could I understand what it meant to be a man if I never had a man to show me what it meant to be a man? And then I had like basketball coaches and football, baseball, stuff like that. I had men who were in my life, but they were never fathering me in any capacity. And then I go 30 years, without having that in my life in any capacity. And then, I meet my wife, and then, I give my life to Jesus. We get married. And then, about a year into that, Cannon was born in 2018. And I just remember this moment when Cannon was born where, I'm like, so probably too much information, but this is just who I am.
We like it.
But so my wife is, she's legit. Like she's super fit. She's super capable. So she's doing she's 3 days past her due date doing wall balls and deadlifts and winning the workout. And her water breaks. And then, so this is at 5 a.m. on a Thursday morning.
Yeah.
And so her water breaks. I freak out. I'm like, I find the first girl in proximity to her. I'm like, go with her to the bathroom. And it's like, am I going to deliver this baby right here, right now? Like, what's happening? And we go to, I thought we were going to the hospital. She's like, no, I want to go home and do my makeup real quick. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think this is a good idea, but we do. And then we go home and, she had put little sticky notes everywhere. My toothbrush is packed here. Here's the bags here. Grab your toothbrush. It's literally I'm helpless. And we get packed up and we go to the OB. Her water has broke. She's dilated enough to be admitted to the hospital. But anyway, we're there and this happens at 5 a.m. And then now 24 hours later, Cannon's born. So I'm on edge for 24 hours. And when he's finally born, he's ugly and slimy and cone-headed and, all juicy. And the nurse is wiping him off and she's, laying him down and putting a little, beanie on him. And she's like, you can touch him. And I'm just sitting over there and I just go over there and I'm looking at my hands, my wife's big germaphobe. I'm like, do I need hand sanitizer? And I go over and I just reach in his direction and he grabs my finger and it wasn't audible where I heard God speak, but in my spirit, God was saying to me, I what you feel right now, I love you more than that. Mm-hmm. And it that moment, it was a memorial stone moment where there was healing that happened in that moment that I didn't think that had anything to do with me because it was him. Yeah. I was excited about his birth, his life. And I think there's so many moments where God wants to teach, to heal, to conform, to show himself to us, for us, because he's that good. And it was kind of in that moment where I was like, man, I never saw it modeled. I never was fathered or never saw anyone be a father. How am I supposed to do this? And I just look back to moments like that where God was fathering me for so long. So moments like that, but also I think one-on-one discipleship is so important where this man that he taught me how to read the Bible. He taught me observation, interpretation, application, all that good stuff. But First Thessalonians talks about how the disciples, they didn't just share the word of God with each other; they shared their very own lives with one another. And Andrew, the person who discipled me, he invited me into his life, and he, this is what being a good friend looks like. This is, James talks about, let your yes be yes and your no be no. That matters. Yeah. That is part of your witness to the world. And this is what it looks like to be a good friend. And this is what it looks like to be a dad. This is what it looks like to be a busy dad. This is in ministry. And he invited me into his life, and I saw him parent his children. And so I learned moments from him, and then just being like mentored by different men in my life. But and like most things, it's like, man, what's the best way to learn how to shoot a basketball? Man, pick that baby up and fire it. You know? And I think it's like just being in those moments where, how do you figure out anything? It's like you just stay in the moment. You stay connected with God, and God's word is both a plan and a structure for how we are to live our lives. And He is a good Father, and He fathers us, and we reciprocate that fathering that He gives us to others. And but yeah, man, there was a lot of stuff that I didn't know, and part of the redemption in my life was like I don't know if I've ever said this to him, because he's just like my father-in-law. He's like MacGyver, with the stash and all. I don't know why, but I always do. Like when I talk about I always do. But he has this it's not just like he has.
He's got
a
like
stash.
a Tom Selleck.
It's like it's like an inch and a half thick. But he bought me tools for my first Christmas. That was 11 years ago, and he bought me like a tool set, and I was just like, I'm going to go to the bathroom and cry. It's like, but for him, it was just like, oh, you need tools. You guys just bought a house, you need tools. So here's tools. You don't have tools, here you go. And so seeing him, how he parented, Hope and her brother and sister, and knowing him. But yeah, I mean, it's I continue to learn. Yeah, but there was a lot I didn't know, and there was a lot that I think, like when you don't have something, like the way that in our humanity, especially as men, it's like, man, the way that I make up for my deficit is I try really hard to overcome it, or I cover it up. It's like, don't look over here, and I think it's been like sometimes what we can do. It's like the way that I'm going to be a good father. Because I come from, like government housing, food stamps, stuff like that. It's like, man, I'm going to give him everything I didn't have. I'm going to make sure that he has all these experiences. We go on all these trips. He has all these nice things. But at the end of the day, the thing that he wants most from me is to sit on the floor and to play tic-tac-toe. The greatest gift that I can give him is my presence. And it's so easy to think that there's something I can give him other than me, because it's so easy to fall back into believing that, man, who the heck am I?
Yeah.
And that goes back to that wound. And that's where there's this wrestle from like the strategic element where Satan wants me to believe that I'm less than because I didn't have, and the reality that I can step into is because of who God is and my faith in Jesus, I do have.
There's so many components that you just said in there that we could technically like dig in and dissect, but I think the coolest thing that you said out of all of that is that we're still learning as dads, right? Like we're never going to have it figured out. And I think if we can go into parenting that way of like obviously taking those good components and those big rocks that you've learned, but never stop learning on how to parent, because it's also going to be different, right? Like we were saying all 4 of your kids are different, all 3 of yours, all 3 of mine, they're all so different. So it's like one parenting technique might not work for all of them.
I would say like, man, like anytime someone comes to me, it's like, man, regarding a new pregnancy or whatever, it's like, man, would you give me some advice? Dude, my advice is like your experience. Like there is no PDF. There is no like 7-step plan. Like if you think that you can read like there's great parenting books, great podcasts, great stuff to listen to, but like take those things, but like hold them with open hands. In that the way in which you're going to parent or connect with our kids is going to be different. Like you were saying, our kids are so different in that, like Canon, if I say, man, you really let me down, I may have like broke a 4x4 over his head. He's like weeping. Judah, on the other hand, I could, anything that you would possibly think about that you would,
Yeah.
Punishment wise. He's just like,
That's my middle. We literally, I think it was last year. It's one of my favorite stories. I told her, I was like, hey, if you're not going to be good, you're going to end up on Santa's naughty list. And she looked at me dead in the eye. She goes, good. I like the naughty list. And I was like, at that moment, I gave her a hug because I was like, you broke me. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. We're going to give you a big hug and hope that we both make it through this. You know?
yeah.
Oh man, Josh, for people that don't know you, we kind of went a little backwards, but there's obviously a lot of context to why Jordan asked that question. Can you give us like the elevator pitch on your story and kind of why we're talking about fathering?
Yeah. So grew up in a small town in South Carolina. Mom and dad were 15. Grew up at my grandma and grandpa's house until 7. And, just me, mom, and, she had 2 brothers and a sister. And we lived there until I was 7. She gets married to a guy I met a few times, and he was, not the best person, drugs, abuse, all these things. That lasted only a few years. And then after that, I think my mom felt like, man, I dropped the ball again. And we should, like, in retrospect, it'd be easy to say, man, we should have just moved back in with, my grandparents. But she was like, man, I need to take ownership of this. So now me, my mom, and my little brother, Michael, who was, the gift from that marriage, we're now in, a trailer or an apartment or some kind of subsidized living. And I grew up no dad in sight. And that was tough. And then at 13, I was at a friend's house, and he showed me pornography. And I had no real understanding of sex, intimacy, relationships even. No foundation regarding like Christianity, theology. I went to church with my grandparents, but no like cognitive like understanding of the gospel, the Bible. I would have said, yeah, sure, God's real. I believe that there's a God. Do I have a relationship with him? I really wouldn't have had any context for that. But I see porn for the first time, intrigued by it, and then I wouldn't say I was addicted to it, but looked at it often. But even more so, it was catalytic in behavior, where I started wanting to pursue what I saw. Lost my virginity soon after that, and then that just became another part of the complexity of my life, and had no one to really correct the behavior. So that went into high school, college. I was in a fraternity, a little more freedom, a little more opportunity to do things that were not best for me. And then I moved to Hollywood. And around the same time I saw porn, I started modeling and acting, and I had a decent amount of success in that, more so modeling than acting. But I have an agent, and I'm in Hollywood, and that's what I'm doing full time. And while I'm there, 3 headhunters from the porn industry approach me, invite me into the porn industry. Essentially, they were representatives of a porn agent, and they would look for attractive guys and girls. Say, hey, here's their card. If you're interested, call them, set up a meeting. And I went to said meeting because I didn't have a good reason to say no. I was already living that way. It was, never in a million years that I thought someone was going to walk up to me and say, hey, dude, do you want to do porn? But made the phone call, set up the meeting, walked into the meeting, and had this conversation where this man sits in front of me and says, hey, how did you grow up? Pretty wild question to ask someone, in an interview. And I told him I grew up pretty much just me and my mom. And that was information that was helpful for him, detrimental for me, and that he was like, okay, essentially I can be everything that your dad wasn't. I can make sure I affirm you. You'll be the guy. You've got acting experience. The porn industry is shifting to making these larger films, and you can be the lead in these movies. You'll make money. You'll have girls and all this stuff. And so I say yes to that, and it blows up my life. And 2006 was a very different time. So like as a someone who was, being managed, regarding mainstream, it's like that was not something they wanted to be associated with. So they cut ties, and I thought, man, this is all I can do, which was like so idiotic and not true. It's like as a 22-year-old with, some college education and capabilities, like the only thing I can do is to continue to do porn. Pretty ridiculous. But in my head, it made sense. And that's the dangerous part about a lie. It's like, man, if you believe a lie to be true, it's true to you.
Yeah.
And you live as if it's true. It becomes part of your worldview. And I stayed stuck in that industry, and it crushed me. It's like, I made millions of dollars. I won the awards. I traveled the world. Really, I had everything that I thought if I had it, that it would fix me. And the reality that it didn't, it crushed me.
Yeah.
And tried to take my life multiple times, and had this interaction with this bank teller where she simply just saw me and called me by name. It caused me to reach out to my mom, and my mom's like, hey, I'm pretty ticked off because I haven't talked to you in like 2 years, but I want to tell you that I'll always love you, and you're better than the way you've been living. And I was faced with an opportunity. And for me, it was really die or run. And I chose to run back home, and built another kingdom for myself, and that like in the fitness space, and worked in the health and fitness space, and did really well for myself. And then I met this girl, and I told her, I'm like, hey, you don't want anything to do with me. I'm this kid that has all these daddy issues, and I've done all this porn, and it's on the internet for the world to see, and this is who I am. And she looked me in the face and said, hey, guess what? You're not defined by the worst thing you've ever done, and you won't be defined by the greatest thing you ever do, because you are not the author of you. God is. And she told me about her faith, and she invited me to church, and I heard the gospel, and the only thing that made sense in that moment is for me to, fall to my knees and, weep like an idiot and let go of, all the things that I couldn't undo myself.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that it was pretty intense, because one of the things I don't talk about a lot is that part of the reason that my mom was so upset with me that I haven't called is because there was an HIV outbreak. In the porn industry, and it shut down for a moment, and I had unprotected sex, like with someone who contracted HIV and ended up dying. And I was just like, man, there's over 40 people that I was in the industry with. I've been out of that industry since 2013, but there's been people that I was in the industry with that should be the same age as me. Over 40 of them have died of suicide or overdose, and a few of them of HIV. And so the reality that, man, she was upset because there was a real possibility that I was dead or not okay. And as I was on my knees, and it wasn't like I thought in a practical way or logical way, like, man, I need to get on my knees and pray because it's the right thing to do. It's like something bigger than me just made my knees give way, and I fell to my knees. And in that posture of surrender, like, God literally showed me, like when I talk about Romans 5:8, it's so special to me because God literally showed me like my bloodstream and HIV coming towards me, and his hand stopping it. And I don't deserve to be alive, Yeah. And there's so many people that I was in rooms with that, overdosed, or like situations where, guns were pulled, or people fell off of balconies, like at parties, and so many things. But like, for me to be a husband and a father and to have anything to say in that realm, like when I think about Ephesians 3:20, like God stands ready to do exceedingly abundantly more than we could ever hope, dream, or imagine. Man, to allow me, to trust me, to gift me with the opportunity to be a dad, no way.
Yeah.
So it's such a gift to be here with you guys and to talk about this, because it's become something that I'm so passionate about. because it's something that I was so sure that I would never have that I wrote it on a suicide note. I will. It was the first thing I wrote. I will never be a father. I will never be a husband. I will never contribute to the world in a way that leads to positive change. And I still have that note.
Dang.
And it's like, sure, I could get a girl pregnant, but I can never be a father.
Yeah.
Because I knew what it was like not to have one, and I saw people who did. And I was like, man, I'll never be that.
Yeah. That's the lie that us believers understand is the lie, right? Like Satan will use those things. And I've heard you say it a few times today, but I will never be enough, or I am not anything, right? Or I should not have. And all these things, it's like, how many times do we hear a friend say like, oh, I shouldn't have this, or I shouldn't. I've said that numerous times. Like, I don't think I should be alive. Genuinely. Like, I'll tell you my story one of these days. Jordan, like,
multiple times
on just with his stroke alone.
Yeah.
And I think the most powerful thing in those stories is reframing it to like, oh man, like God is giving me this, where I get to do this, or I get to be here, I get to use my platform because God has entrusted me. It's just like such a powerful thing. Like hearing you say this numerous times today, it's reminding me, because Jalen actually said something earlier to me where he's like, yo, you gotta have a humble heart posture.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, it's not it's God is allowing you or him or us to do these things. And it was like, oh man, like today has been all about, well, yeah, I could do that, or the Lord is blessing me to do that.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a question because porn is something I never really struggled with personally. Have I looked at it and watched it? Of course, right? But it's not something where I would have to like it's not something I actively have ever gone to.
Right.
And so for me, I believe the full truth and the lie of like, it's not the porn that's getting people. It's the addiction. It's the high. It's that dopamine hit. It's the
release from something else.
Yeah, a release from something else, or that false narrative of like, oh my gosh, you have this smoking hot chick babysitting or whatever. Like just these disgusting like narratives that they tell you, but it's all for a purpose, right? Like you said, the guy asked you about your childhood.
Yeah.
And you said this morning, which I would love for you to speak more on, because there's so many guys and girls now that are dealing with porn as the one thing that's like their addiction, right?
Yeah.
But it's not just that one thing.
Yeah.
But there's a reason you have a pseudonym name.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason they're asking you these things. There's a reason they're essentially modernizing sex work into these industries, and there's a reason why there's all these people coming out now of wanting things taken down, or feeling the guilt and the shame and all of these things. But one of the things I'd love for you to touch on is the name component.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people that look at that and struggle, but in their own life, they're afraid of who they are. And that's almost the same equivalent of using a fake name.
Sure.
You're doing it in public. These people are doing it behind closed doors.
Yeah. It was so interesting because, the agent was like, I'll make you famous. I'll make you rich. You'll be the guy. Okay. So what name do you want to go by?
Yeah. That's so weird.
And I think you even look at social media, any like primary antagonist, someone who is like, they have an account to antagonize people on social media. More often than not, it's a meme for a photo and an obscure username. Why? Because they believe that something about changing their name and how they look and their identity, it allows them to hide behind or creates the facade that there's no accountability towards me because this is not me doing it. And in the porn industry, it's like, man, if I can get you to have an aspect of disassociation from the reality of your humanity, or get you to, just 1 degree of separation, if you go by a different name, well, then that's not actually you doing it. And if it's not actually you doing it, then you'll be more likely to compromise in some area because you're somewhat detached from it. But I mean, you see that with, in gangs and like in the homeless community. There's so many times where if I'm living or acting in a way that is different than my intrinsic, humanity, like who I am and who I was, raised to be or brought up to be or portray myself to be. But if there's an area in my life where I would act differently, well, there needs to be some kind of like disassociation from that. So in porn, you go by a stage name so that there is this level of detachment from you because you're more easily to be manipulated in that way. And I think that's why it was so powerful. As the bank teller in my, I hadn't heard my real name in 18 months. And she simply just said, Joshua, are you okay? Like to the normal person, like, why would that be so astronomically, freeing or, why would that create such an aha moment in your life? It's like, man, I believed that Joshua was dead and my stage name was the only aspect of me that was alive. And, I stopped correcting people, and anyone that loved me enough that knew me as Joshua, well, shame caused me to remove myself from them. And because that's the beauty of accountability. It's like, if I'm held accountable to you and I'm living in a way that's unbecoming of me or detrimental to me, you're going to say, hey, bro, like you need to stop doing that. Or why are you doing that?
Yeah.
And I can respond in two different ways. I can either say, hey, thank you for telling me I need to make some changes. Can we spend some time having a conversation about it? Or don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And in that case, if it's my mom, it's just like, man, you're telling me that I need to change what I'm doing. And like, you don't get it. Like, this is not what I'm doing. This is who I am, and I can't change who I am. So my only option is to remove myself from this relationship because you're going to tell me that I need to change. And I truly believe that I can't. So the only thing that makes sense for me is like, man, maybe I've just disqualified myself from being your son because I don't know how to change because I don't believe I can change who I am.
Do you feel like you like willfully had those decisions in there where you were like, do you think, I guess what I'm trying to get at was it small decisions and then one day you're like, where the heck am I? Or was it like you hit a wall and you're like, no, I'm going to choose to be this. And then you hit a wall and I'm going to choose to be this because that's who I feel like I am deep down inside. Or was it like, one day you woke up, you're like, how the heck did I get here?
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite books is by Eugene Peterson, and it's Long Obedience in the Same Direction. So it's like, man, how do I become a man after God's own heart? Like, how do I become, any spiritual father you guys might have that you look up to, man? It's like, how do you get to, other than having the wisdom's whiskers, how do you become, a godly man? You walk in integrity. You do the next right thing, and you do that, one step at a time. And in the same way, like that's how like sin, it's like, man, unfortunately to the over 2,000 people that I work with a month, where I hear that there's some type of sexual immorality in their life, and in many cases, people have blown up their marriages or lost their positions at in leadership. Like, man, when you say out loud, man, I don't know how this happened. Well, more often than not, there's a breadcrumb trail of small decisions that led you to that moment, and the reality is compromise. Well, it always begets compromise. There's an area of your life where there's compromise. The probability of it bleeding into every area of your life is high. And if I look back, it's like, man, it was the porn that led to the promiscuity, that led to the drugs and alcohol, and then I got a DUI like a month after I turned 21, and then I had an opportunity to like move to LA, and it's like I kept trying to run from like or reinvent myself. It's like that the whole idea of like when you go into like if you were in like a small high school and you go to a college, even if it's not a huge one or whatever, it's like, and I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to go by this different name, or it's like everyone's always called me I'm going to be Joshua, it's like, or whatever. It's like, man, you believe that by putting on a different mask, you can become a different person, but it's going to be the trail of decisions you've made over time that this is who I am, you know? So I think, like, to answer your question, like, yeah, I mean, I think it was small compromises over time that caused me to, to bleed to the extent where how did I get, I didn't realize that I had experienced the trauma that I experienced until it was the big thing. Like, why would I say yes to doing porn? Well, it started with watching porn, but even before that, like the feelings of inadequacy, like of a child, and this lie that I told myself that I'm not enough, and the only way that I can feel as if I'm enough is I become enough, and the way that I'm become enough is to do enough, and you can never do enough to be enough.
Yeah, it's gonna just keep going more, more and more. Dude, that's, oh my gosh, it's like it's giving me goosebumps a little bit just thinking, like, not just again for porn, but we're discovering how big porn is with almost every guest, but just the control that it takes over these lives.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's I mean, like I said this morning, it's like, man, porn is not the problem. Like, no one looks at porn because they want to watch porn. Like, porn is a Band-Aid to cover up what you don't want to deal with. Like, porn is, I want to numb this thing that I don't want to feel. It's to cover up the thing that I want to hide. It's the way that I can manipulate my emotions into, I feel like I'm rejected, but I know in the narrative of porn, you can't not choose me because I have complete autonomy, and this is a world in which I'm never not going to be chosen because you don't have the power to reject me. And that's why, I always try to ask the bigger questions that are, sometimes uncomfortable. But when I'm talking with someone about porn, like early on, I'll ask, well, what kind of porn do you watch? And most people are like, whoa, dude. That's
personal.
That's a personal question. But it's like, something I said this morning, and I believe it to be so true. It's like the level of your confession is going to equate to the level of your healing.
Oh.
And it's in what I'm pursuing is what my heart actually needs.
Yeah.
So it's like, man, because like in the confession of, what does confession actually look like? Well, it doesn't look like, I went to that website again. I messed up. I mean, clarity is our friend. Clarity is God honoring. So what confession looks like is, man, I felt, like, what did I feel? I felt sad. I felt lonely. I felt tired. I felt overlooked. I felt frustrated. I felt like I wasn't chosen. I was, this happened and I felt this way. And because I felt this way, I chose, we don't fall into sin. I strategically pursued sin. So I felt this way, and then I chose to get my computer, and I went to a place, and I got my phone or my computer, and I went into my room, and I went on a website, and I went on this specific website, and once I pulled up this specific website, I put in the search bar and searched for this specific type of porn.
Yeah.
I masturbated, and I felt terrible afterwards, and I woke up at 2 a.m., and I did it again.
Yeah.
And that's been happening for 20 years, and I've never told anyone. Like, the freedom that person has the opportunity to experience, in contrast of, yeah, man, I did it again. I looked at that site again, is drastically different. But in that confession, well, you're able to have evidence of, man, you're looking at this specific category, and that category presents an opportunity for me to say, man, is there a wound associated with my pursuit of this specific type of pornography. And you look at the neuroscience of it, it's just like crystal clear. It's like, man, whatever, like in what area I have unmet needs and I feel needy, I'm pursuing in that category.
Yeah.
And it's complicated and embarrassing. It feels, but man, like those details are the thing that's standing between you and freedom.
Wow. That is. I tell this story. I struggled with pornography for a long time, and I was listening to a podcast, and I don't remember who it was. It was a while ago, and I felt like I needed to tell my wife that I had struggled with it, and I was like, I didn't want to, and I remember like I knew part of it is because I wanted to talk about it on this podcast, but I was like, I can't let her find out from listening to me talk about it, and to willfully go and break her heart was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
After we had already had that trust built, and it was like, did you look at it while we were married? Yes. When? How often? And she's like asking those questions, and each one every time she asked a question, it was like I was scared to answer, but every time I answered, I felt so much relief.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
and then the more that we've talked about it on the podcast, the more relief I got. And it's like, it's something that I had struggled with for a long time. And, but that is so like, when you were saying that, I was looking back to those moments and I'm like, oh, because I always thought, yes, what was the feeling that I had behind that when I was looking at, when you broke it down to even like what were you searching? Because that's a wound. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't think I even took it down to that level. And now.
Yeah. I mean, even like you look at the neuroscience of it, it's like, man, like the impact that it has on our prefrontal cortex. It's like our prefrontal cortex is the part of our brain that it helps us regulate our emotions and it allows us to be resilient. So how strategic of Satan is it to implement something like pornography to combat our minds, to make it, we already know like what Paul talks about in Romans 7, like why do I do the thing I don't want to do and I struggle to do the thing I want to do. So that I'm already in this battle with my flesh. But pornography is actually diminishing the part of your brain that allows you to be resilient and like, regulate your emotions. So why does like loneliness, depression, like anxiety, like why all these things like, correspond with pornography addiction? Well, you're literally impacting the part of your brain that regulates that. And, why is it so detrimental to kids? And you think about kids already have a hard time like regulating their emotions, and it's so important for them to learn to do those things. And it's hard for them not to do what they want to do. It's like I want to do this, I want to eat this, I just do it. And then us as parents, we have to help them regulate those things. But it's like for a kid, if average age of exposure to pornography is 8 years old, and
when you said that, dude, it freaked me out. Sorry, go ahead. Like.
But I'm saying, but like to freak you out more, average of exposure to pornography is 8 years old. And an 8-year-old, the prefrontal cortex of your brain is only 40% developed.
Yeah.
So you're literally setting a child up to not only be addicted to pornography, but to be addicted to everything. Yeah. And it's almost impossible for them to fully regulate their emotions. So why are they acting out? It's like, man, because they've been trained to do so.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, and then you think about that in the brain. It's like, man, if we were out in a field and there was a path that you would always take in your four-wheeler, and you'd always go this way. Well, then after a period of time, you go out to the field, and it's like, man, if I've never ridden out there with you, I can follow you, and I can just follow the tracks. Yeah. Well, in the same way, man, you take a CT scan of a brain where someone's been addicted to pornography, and they watched it, 3 to 5 times a month for 10 years, and you take someone who's been using hard drugs, 3 to 5 times, a month for a few years. Well, there's tracks that are visible in the brain from, the hard drugs, but also the pornography. because there's been that dopamine hit in that track that's happened so long. So what does that look like practically? Well, when I feel sad, your body keeps the score.
Yeah.
So when I feel sad, the way that I medicate my sadness is I watch pornography. So it's not only that it's become habitual in my life, like cognitively, my brain tells me, oh, I feel sad. Well, I watch porn and I feel better. And the most dangerous thing about porn is it works. It works in that it makes me not feel what I don't want to feel. It allows me to hide from what I want to hide, but it never gives me what I need, which is connection.
Yeah. But
So
it forces you to keep going back.
Yeah, I mean that's why like regarding addiction in a whole, like the antidote for addiction is not, X, Y, and Z. It's connection. Like the antidote for addiction is connection, because what I'm actually desiring is God given. Like I want to be needed and known and experience intimacy. And I've believed the lie that this augmented, fragmented, synthetic thing is going to give me what I need. And it feels as if it does. But then after a few moments, I realize that it didn't. Mm-hmm. And I feel ashamed by what I did. And then I just go back over and over and over again.
Guys, too, if you're listening to this, like, and you don't struggle with porn, like I didn't, I struggled with just real life doing it. Right.
Yeah.
So when I would feel the need for whatever, I would go out and find a girl, or I had a roster, I had a list that I would go through.
Yeah.
And that's a funny thing we've talked about is like from a very conservative family standpoint, I looked at porn because I was like, oh, I'm not doing what my parents told me not to do, which is go out and sleep around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm actually a better person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at porn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would just go and leave a trail of destruction, but I wasn't looking at porn.
Yeah.
So I only wanted to bring that up because if you are listening to this and you're in one of those categories, or maybe you're not in any, great, like praise the Lord.
Yeah.
But if you are in one of those and you are, you're getting boob pics sent to you from a girl you're hooking up with, that's a form of porn.
Yeah. And Matthew 5 would tell us like where would Jesus categorize those things, like the porn, the hooking up, and the pictures, or even lusting after the girl on the treadmill in front of you.
Yeah.
Jesus says they're one and the same.
Yeah.
And they're all corrupting and detrimental to your heart.
Yeah.
And what you are teaching your heart, because we're being discipled either by the world or the word.
Yep.
Continually. So what he's saying, what he speaks about in that, he's like, man, you think, speaking to the Pharisees, you think that adultery is when a married, man sleeps with a married woman or another woman, and there's, 3 witnesses, and you had one shoe on, and it was a Tuesday. It's like that. You've got this picture of what you think adultery is. No. I tell you that if you lust after a woman in your heart, you've committed adultery. And it's better for you to gouge out your eyes and cut off your hands to be thrown in Gehenna, to be thrown in the lake of fire. And what he's saying is your problem is not that you can't control your fingers to send messages or to look up a website, or you can't control your eyes to look at people in a certain way, or you can't control your brain to not think the right thoughts. Your problem is in your heart, and you can't fix that.
Yeah.
Only I can. So for me, it's like, man, how do I, come out of, hooking up with, thousands of girls? Like, how do I I'm going to be in a committed relationship where we're going to choose purity.
Yeah.
It's like, man, how in the heck am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And to the person that might say, man, I need to masturbate. I have to do this. I have to do that. Dude, I did 1,000 pornographic scenes in a 6.5-year period, and then was abstinent for 9 months.
Yeah.
And you know what? Everything still works, and I've got 4 kids. Nothing fell off or exploded, and I was just fine. So
Is it true if you don't use it, you lose?
yeah. It still
I
worked,
heard you Ron
you know?
Burgundy earlier, so I had to
Yeah.
put that
Oh,
one
you
in.
heard it?
Yeah,
We were just
like,
saying.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Yeah.
I felt so dumb.
Because when he introduced me, he's like, he's from
Dallas.
Man, I felt so dumb.
And I was like, I'm Ron Burgundy.
My brain, now you know, like with the stuff that I'm.
Yeah, you're
like my
busy.
brain is just not
Yeah.
focusing. But
Well, let me ask you, like, coming at like, we'll wrap it up here pretty soon. But I want to ask, like, as a dad,
Yeah.
how do you plan on addressing this topic with your sons?
Yeah.
Because, again, like, it's not like you're shy about your story. You have told your story multiple times, and so
Yeah.
your sons will grow up knowing that, which
Yeah,
is
I mean,
amazing.
Cannon has sat right beside me. And
That's-
you've told
you
it.
know,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, now that you're saying 8 years old, I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, I looked at Jordan that was doing the videography today, and I go,
Yeah.
"That's 3 years away from my son, my oldest son."
that's a
and
year
I was
away
just
for
like,
me. Yeah.
and I was blown away by that.
Yeah. And the wildest thing is like, oh, we can protect our kids. 84% of the time when kids see pornography for the first
not
time,
with you.
It's secondhand exposure,
Yeah.
meaning that either they were on an unprotected device that wasn't yours and they were looking up something that had nothing to do with porn and something popped up.
Yep.
I was in Billings, Montana, literally like meeting with a pastor, just picked me up from the airport, and we were having coffee with his son, and like in that moment, he got a phone call from his wife, and they're doing homeschool math, and the website that they were doing homeschool math on, a pop-up came up. She clicked on a pop-up, and it was hardcore pornography.
Ooh,
Like,
Yeah.
So I say that to say, it is happening early and earlier, and most of the time it's not because they
are looking for it.
It's like, man, they just like randomly decided to look up porn one day. It's like, no, porn is looking for them.
Yeah.
So with that said, man, there's really great resources. There's one resource. The book's about, I think it's 10 years old, but it's called Good Book, Bad Pictures. And it talks about how number one, private parts are private, and they're not for people to see. But the reality is, because we live in a broken world, there are private parts that are in books, magazines, and on video.
Yeah.
Those things do exist. And in the same way, if you are scared, what do? You come to mom and dad.
Yeah.
If you're hurt, what do? Come to mom and dad. If you see naked pictures, if you see private parts in a book or on an iPad or a phone, you are not in trouble. You are not bad, but please come tell me.
Yeah.
And then we can have a conversation about it. And what that presents is, because here's the reality. What we don't say says something.
For sure.
And sometimes what we don't say says something louder than what we do say.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't say, hey, this is penis, testicles, vagina, private parts. Sex is, mommy and daddy, they love each other, and this happens in marriage. You don't have to go crazy about it. But here's the reality: if we are ashamed to talk about these things, then that's going to equate to sex being something that's shameful. Yeah. And this is how predators manipulate and harm children. And when kids see something and they live in a home where sex is never talked about, there's an assumption that sex is something that we don't talk about in this house. So if I saw something or something happened to me, I'm going to feel embarrassed and I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
So it is our due diligence, and it is negligent. Not to condemn anyone, but it's negligent if we understand that we live in a world where, man, you cannot turn on the TV without seeing the atrocities that are happening in the world. And then how prevalent porn is. So if porn is the gateway to allow people to manipulate people and to harm people and all these things, and it's part of the indoctrination of how we view sex as a society, well, I have to, if there's broken glass on the floor and we were training and we were all barefoot and I didn't tell you, man, I would be a pretty
Messed
horrible
up, yeah.
person if I didn't tell you there was broken glass over there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you, hey, there is potential for harm in this space.
Yeah.
And because I love you, I'm going to tell you the truth. And, the internet's most favorite antagonistic thing to tell me or to say to me is, what are you going to tell your kids?
Yeah.
And I'm not numb or in denial of the reality that I'm going to have to look 4 little boys in the face that I love more than anything in this world and have to tell them that dad did some stuff that's going to hurt them. But I'm going to tell them the truth because that's what you do when you love somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And people can't use ammunition against me when they already know.
Yeah.
They can know the man that I am, the father that I am, how I love their mom, but I can't take back what I did and what exists on the internet.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? I'm going to prepare them for the world. I'm going to live by example, and I'm going to tell them the truth even when it hurts like hell.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what you do when you love somebody.
Yeah, but imagine the example. Not imagine the example that they're going to have about the love of God,
Yeah.
about forgiveness, about redemption. They get to see Jesus, and they get to see God's love
Yeah.
in such a different way than other people ever get to experience in their
Yeah.
entire life. They get to see what we talked about earlier when we said owning up to your mistakes as, when we fall short as a father.
Yeah.
They get to see what grace looks like. They get to see what a mighty woman of God in your wife looks
Yeah.
like.
And they get to see the gospel played out for real.
Yeah.
I'll say something that is that sounds really good. That's really good, but then I'll say something that is tender to my heart. But it's like it's so easy for us as dads to get, in our entrepreneurial ventures or us, building wealth or building things to give our kids. Man, at the end of the day, legacy is not what we leave behind for our kids; it's what we leave within our kids.
Yes.
And the greatest thing that we can leave within them is a depiction of what does it look like to live as if we believe the Bible is true and Jesus is real.
Yes.
And what that looked like played out in our life is, I shared this with you guys, and I have my wife's permission to share this, but we found out we were pregnant and, stoked about it. And, my wife is super creative, so she made these
balloons,
and in each balloon there's a picture of a little boy, and in the 5th balloon was the sonogram, the pregnancy test, and that night she miscarried, and Cannon, our 7-year-old, what's in there was a box where we put that in. He saw us doing that. What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? And I was like, we'll open it in the morning. And then that night, she miscarried. And then I was faced with, when he asks, and he will, what's in the box?
Yeah.
Do I say what I want to say, which is, don't ask about the box. We're not going to talk about that, buddy. Or do I lean into, and that mommy had a baby in her belly, and that baby is now in heaven. And I can say that because the gospel is true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something to make us feel better about something that hurts, because it's okay that it hurts. But we can have hope while we're hurting, because Jesus really lived, he really died on a cross, and he really rose again. And because that is true, we can really have hope.
I'm listening to that because I feel like I'm gonna be potentially there with you. But yeah, that's when you lean into the gospel like that, like Jordan was saying, is that you have so much that you're preparing your family for.
Yeah.
And that you get to, I can just imagine as like a kid, right? Dad's Superman.
Yeah.
And they're going to get to those hard conversations that you do have at some point. They're going to get to see how you actually lived.
Yeah.
Which I think is going to equip them even more than not having your story.
Yeah.
Right. And, man, that in itself is so powerful.
Yeah.
That I'm just trying to like wrap my head around that component of just being like, you're genuinely living like and breathing God's word.
Yeah.
And to those boys, that's going to be, there's no value you can put on that.
Yeah.
I've said it multiple times. The best things that my dad, or one of my favorite things my dad ever said to me. So I remember looking at my dad, I was like, I want to be just like you one day. And he goes, no, I want you to be better than me. I want you to stand on my shoulders and go farther than I ever could have.
Yeah.
But I'm going to lay that groundwork for you. And it was like, knowing that my dad wasn't perfect is what led me to be a better man.
Yeah.
And own up to that and change. What's up, guys? Jordan here from the Good Dude, Good Dad podcast. Huge shout out to our sponsor, BioPro. Ben and I have been on it for a while now, but I got to tell you this. Nothing is more important to a dad than sleep. We usually don't get a lot of it, and it's usually not great quality. But ever since I started taking BioPro plus cortisol, my sleep has been phenomenal. So go check them out in our show notes down below. There are a few things in life that I enjoy more, and I argue any man enjoys more than a good cup of coffee in the morning. That's why I use veteran-owned and operated Hidden House Coffee. Hidden House Coffee roasts here in Santa Ana, California. They have locations in Santa Ana, San Juan, or San Clemente. But you can go to hiddenhousecoffee.com and use GDGD on your checkout to receive a discount. I highly recommend going with their coffee subscription. But yes, if you want a great cup of coffee, not a good cup of coffee, a great cup of coffee, go to hiddenhousecoffee.com. Thank you to our sponsors, NextGen. NextGen Industries is committed to advancing longevity, wellness, and strength through precision-driven innovation. Select products are USA finished and manufactured, meaning they are held to a pharmacy-grade, FDA compounding pharmacy standard. Each product is sterile, isotonic, and pH balanced, rigorously tested for purity and quality, and provided a certificate of analysis. That's because at NextGen Industries, transparency, performance, and long-term health come first. I mean, you spoke on so many different topics, and dude, we're going to have you back. And it's so funny because we say this with actually a lot of our guests. Like, when we do this style of podcast, it's just such a free flow that there's so many things that come out of it that I'm like, I want to go down that rabbit trail.
Yeah.
But then you guys will like continue on. I'm like,
Yeah.
right, we got to let it go. We got to keep going.
That was the beauty of being on Sean Ryan. It's like, we decided just to keep going.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
We ended up with 4 hours and 37 minutes of content.
Goodness gracious. It's taken me, I started that one probably a couple weeks ago. He always makes fun of it. I'm not a huge podcast guy, ironically. Yeah. I listen to him on the drive, right?
Yeah.
But I don't do it in my first drive. The first early morning drive it's just pure worship.
Yeah.
So it's the second and third and fourth drives, but my drives are somewhere from, sometimes they're 10 minutes or sometimes they're 45.
Yeah.
And so I think I've now listened to that episode maybe 15 different car rides, and I'm still not done.
I also am a psycho. I listen to everything at 2 times speed.
Yeah, he goes
Everything.
fast. Like I don't.
It's just the way, like, I think my ADD is so bad that if I listen to it on like regular speed, my mind wanders, and then I come back and go, "What did I just listen to?"
Yeah, it's like I've got to pay attention because I won't.
Yeah, because it's going so fast, it keeps me having to focus. But yeah, it's our podcast. What does it mean to you to be a good dude and a good dad?
Yeah. Man, to be a good dude, I was like, man, have I lived today in a way that honors and glorifies Jesus? Jesus was, presented with the question like, who is good? No one. No one is the answer. But how can I become more like Jesus? How can I depict Jesus? And how do I be a good dad? We touched on it earlier, man. The greatest gift I could give my kids is my presence. my uninterrupted presence. And I think that's what it means to be a good dad. It's like, love them, hug them, encourage them, keep them safe. Pastor Joby, he talks about like these roles as men, we're called to be priests, providers, protectors, and a few other things. But it's just like, man, my job as a dad is to love them really well and teach them how to navigate life. We were talking about earlier, man, a lot of the things that have happened to me and a lot of things I've done, well, they now prepare me for experiences so I can navigate life better. And man, as a dad, I want to prepare them to be young men, to be husbands, followers, leaders. And I can tell them a lot of things, but the greatest thing I can do is to show them. This is what it means to follow Jesus. And if I've followed Jesus well today, well, I've given them an example to follow.
Yeah.
We say a lot, kids spell love Time. And it's not even about the quantity of time, it's the quality of time, because you can be present without being intentional.
Yeah.
And the intentional time spent with them where you're really locked in says volumes to them about where they sit in your heart.
I mean, just like this is we'll give this away for free, to how to be a better husband.
Yeah.
Where it's like you and your wife's love languages are almost never going to be the same, and naturally the way that we love people. Well, I want to love my wife well, and what would be the most natural thing is for me to love you in the way in which I receive love. But for me, words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch.
Yeah.
My wife, quality time. Okay, what quality time? What does that mean? For me, it was like as we were going through premarital counseling, I was like, man, is that a quality date? Is that a quality gift? Because I didn't see myself capable or worthy of. Man, how could just my presence, my undistracted, presence, be the thing that you desire the most? But it was, and it is.
Yeah.
And what that sets the table, because she allowed me to heal in that way and experience that. Well, that's what my kids want from me. They enjoy watching a movie with me. They enjoy going to a basketball game with me. But at the end of the day, we go through these catechisms. Say, who made you? God made me. Why did God make you? To know him, love him, and to live for his glory. What is God like? Holy, strong, kind, always with me. What is sin? Something we say, think, or do, or don't do that disobeys God's word. Who can forgive you for sin? Only Jesus. What does it mean to follow Jesus? To know him, love him, and obey his word. Who can, what is the Bible? God's word, and it shows us who he is and how to live. What's our hope forever? That Jesus is coming back and we're going to live with him forever. And the last thing I asked them is, what is something that made your heart happy today? And it's never what I think it's going to be. It's never, we went and saw, Zootopia 2, it's you played tic-tac-toe with me. It's like, dang. And it's like so many times, it's like the big things, it's like, it's like the Christmas, like you get your kids, especially when they're little, you get them this like elaborate thing that you think they're going to love. And they play with the box and draw like circles on the box. And it's like, they play with the box longer than they play with a toy. And it's like, man, to them, the gift is you.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you are listening to this and you don't think that's true or you haven't experienced it, like just last night, my wife took the boys home and my daughter stayed with me at the wedding because she's, Little Miss Popular. And we're sitting at a table together. It's a wedding. It's music time, dancing. Everyone's having fun. It's loud. We're sitting at a table together. And I look over at her and I said, hey, this is kind of like a mini date. And she looked at me. She's like, big old smile, like eyes lit up. And she's like, yeah, Dad, that's all I want. And she was like, we haven't had like a date like this in a long time. Like just me and her, you know, I've been taking the kids all together. But that time that she wanted was simply just to sit there with me. It wasn't to do the photo booth or the amount of like desserts I was letting her have because Devin and the boys weren't there. It was just the fact that she was sitting across from me in a loud, chaotic place, and I sat with her and said the word date. And to see her little eyes light up, I was like, oh, like they value that present time with you more than anything. And it's something I would have never fully understood until becoming a father.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated either. Like literally Hudson and I did. He asked me, he was like, Dad, could we go on a date yesterday? And I'd been, I got to take him one when we were in Reading. Him and I went somewhere, but he was like, I was like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, I want to go to, he got a Polaroid camera because of cash.
Yeah.
Because of cash. He got a Polaroid camera and he's like, I want to go to Walmart and I want to take pictures of toys. And I was like, okay. And we were driving and he's like, Dad, I love our daddy bro dates. And I was like, I love our daddy bro dates too, man. And he's like, and he was just in the back and just a smile on his face. We got a hot cocoa and at the coffee in the Safeway shop and then went to Walmart. And it was like, we did that and we went and got groceries because we just got to town. And he got home and I was like, what was your favorite part of the day? He was like, oh, daddy bro date for sure. And I'm like, daddy bro date, it is. And it was, man, it was so awesome and it was so simple.
Yeah.
All right. So the follow-up question is, what's one actionable step that you would give a man today that was, do we want to tailor it specific? Go ahead. Why don't you do that one?
I would love for you to just kind of speak on, again, because we're really discovering how porn is just impacting lives, right?
Yeah.
Male and female. Like those statistics are crazy, and the age, I'm having a hard time with that because I'm like, dude, I can only imagine my daughter she homeschools, she has her tablet, and if something like that, or YouTube, right? Like they will let her put on, whatever, Peppa Pig or whatever, but those ads that come on, they don't have to be quote unquote porn, but if it's a chick half naked because they're trying to sell sex for a lotion commercial, my daughter and my boys now have been like, what? Why are they naked? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is happening. And so we actually recently, which I love that you said that, we did the private part talk. And because, our daughter's at school and we're trying to teach her without obviously saying what could happen, but like, hey, privates are for privates. Like only mom and dad should, be there if you need help to wipe or whatever, you know? And so the flip side of that is now my 3-year-old boy will be like, I have a vagina. And I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. But anyways, because they're trolling, right? Like they think it's funny because they got a rise out of us one time when I was like, bud, you don't say that. And he's like, oh yeah, now I'm going to say that. But I think for you, I would love for you to tailor it towards, I know for a fact there's people listening to this that are maybe just got done watching porn or will watch it today or
are literally watching this episode in hopes to get free from porn.
I mean, the actionable step is like, how do they make that first step to breaking it if they don't feel like they have the willpower to or a desire to? Like how do they break that?
I would say, well, firstly, you can't stop doing this because if you could, you would. Because there's nothing advantageous about habitually watching it. Like I've never met a person that would, in the trueness of the confession say, man, this has made my life so much better. So if you could stop watching it on your own, you would. And there's just this aspect of shame. And there's this quote by Brené Brown. She says that shame cannot survive being spoken. And the thing that seems to be unmentionable to you, once you say it, it loses its power over you. So as it's interesting because we're sitting here saying, man, if you take Disney, Netflix, and the NBA and you add together all the revenue from 2024, it's $19 billion less than the revenue that porn generated. So, and then, even in the church, I did a project with Barna, Pure Desire, 3,500 different churches. And the data said in the age demographic of 18 to 25, 80+% of guys and around 60% of girls would say people who are plugged into church would identify as followers of Jesus are watching it at minimum once a month. Mm-hmm. So to the person, is this problematic in our culture? Yes.
Yeah.
And I would say it is problematic not in that you do it, it's what it causes you not to do. Mm-hmm. It causes you to not live with boldness, to not walk in authority. It's because that's what shame robs from you. Like you'll never be the husband, the friend, the father, the leader that you could be because you've minimized your capacity. I have the opportunity to do chapel for many NFL teams, and that's the way that I frame it, man. Like, do you want access to all the capacity that you have? So to the person saying, hey, what's the first thing that I do? You got to tell somebody. Mm-hmm. You got to tell somebody. And I shared the statistics because, man, the probability of someone that you're telling, well, they either have watched it, they've struggled with it, or they know someone that is. Mm-hmm. And the data is just too astronomical for that not to be true. Mm-hmm. So that's not to say this is just something we deal with, because I push back against that. Mm. It's like, man, porn is just a guy's problem. This is just something. It's just boys being boys. Mm-hmm. Well, if you've identified as a follower of Jesus Christ, well, the Bible says you're called to die. Mm. If you're a husband, man. Husbands love to utilize what Ephesians says about, man, a wife needs to submit to me. Well, guess what? If you read the whole chapter, you're called to die to your wife as Jesus has died for the church. Mm. And part of me dying is for me to having discipline. Mm. And for me to be disciplined, I have to have self-control. And for part of that is, man, how can I stop doing something that is detrimental to me? The Bible says that sexual sin is a sin against my own body. The Bible tells us that because I'm a follower of Jesus, there is now this indwelling of the Holy Spirit, and my body is a temple of the Spirit of God. So I am a temple for the Holy Spirit, but the Bible tells me to be a living sacrifice. The Bible tells me that my body is not my own; it was bought with a price. So if I'm going to take that seriously, and I am wrestling with that, I'm not passively staying stuck. I'm passively saying, or I'm actively saying, man, I don't want to continue doing this. I've got to tell someone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've got to tell someone. So find someone that loves Jesus and loves you, and don't minimize it. And like, man, like guys really hate it when I say, man, do I still need to tell my spouse? Yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But I would say, this isn't like the end all be all, but I would say, you need to say far more to a friend first, because you don't want your confession to your wife to be, hey, I'm gonna spill all my stuff on you, and I'm gonna feel really good about it because I got it off my chest, but now I've really hurt you. Mm-hmm. So I need a filter first. Yeah. I need to say all of it, and when I confess it to that trusted friend, I need to say it all. Mm-hmm. I need to say it all because, again, the depth of your confession is going to equate to the level of your healing. And man, if I say it all, what that's going to do is going to lift a weight off of me. And what it's going to remove is what I said, man, shame cannot survive being spoken. And when I speak it, it loses its hold on me. Mm-hmm. So that's step one. And then, I need, if I keep tripping over the same thing, man, that's on me. So I need to identify what is tripping me up. So what emotion is catalytic in me wanting to do that? well, okay, if I know when I feel hungry, sad, tired, there's an acronym for it, but in all the emotions that are catalytic in me wanting to medicate or numb how I feel, if that leads me to doing porn, I need to identify that, because I can't become obedient until I'm self-aware. So now that I become self-aware of when I feel this way, this is a behavior that coincides with that. Well, I can't just not watch porn. I have to do something else.
Yeah.
I have to do something else. I have to do something healthy and holy, whether it be push-ups, put on worship music. And then the Bible tells us to flee sexual immorality. It doesn't say to bow up our chest. It says to flee. And so, we want to be like Joseph. Joseph was tempted by Potiphar's wife, and he fled. He ran. And I think it's really important to understand this. He was not only fleeing from sin, it was where he was running to. He wasn't running from sin. He was running to God. So where we run, because it's so easy for us to run from one sin to another. So don't find yourself running from porn to alcohol to gambling to appreciating fitness, and all of a sudden I become obsessed with that, and it just becomes another idol, because idol worship and sexual immorality in the Bible, every single time it's hand in hand.
Yeah.
Every time a people have given themselves over to idol worship, sexual immorality goes hand in hand. So I would say to that person, what's step one? Tell somebody, and now make it more difficult to do the thing that I don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? Maybe you need a flip phone. You need accountability. There's a lot of stuff you can do, and I've got some resources on my website,
And we'll put all that down there too.
Yeah, but step one is, man, you got to own it. You got to tell someone, this is something that I've been struggling with. This is how long I've been struggling with it. And man, would you hold me accountable? And really simply, the thing that changed my life is I have a conversation with a man once a week, and I say, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is how I fed my flesh. This is how I fed my spirit. And this is how I contributed to God's kingdom. And then if I can clearly articulate those things, my thoughts are not my master.
Yeah.
So I think, man, just find someone that you can do life with. Ideally one-on-one, life on life.
Yeah.
Digital's great, but there's something different about sitting across the table from somebody.
100%. I want to very, very clearly state also, if you're a Christian listening to this and you missed the part that he said it's 80% and 60% in a church community, you're thinking of watching porn is better than going out and doing it in real life. It's not.
Right.
And I think that's why we're seeing it so big in the church, right? Because, if I'm
A lot of people have the same mindset that I had.
for sure, like if I'm abstaining from hooking up with this chick,
Yeah.
like I might as well just watch it. I'm not actually doing it. Like that was the difference between me and Jordan, right? Like he would watch it, I would just go out and do it.
Also, I'm not attractive enough.
Get out of here.
but I would say, that is what Jesus preached against. Like that is the religious people that Jesus preached against, because it's in my, it's my bending of the law
Yeah.
that makes me righteous. No one's righteous.
I don't think it was biblically correct of how I was living was not biblically correct how I was living my life, but I was never, when I was going through that season of my life, I just owned it, like it wasn't right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was still going to church, right?
Yeah.
I go to church hammered sometimes from the night before, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no way you go on a bender like that. Of course it's still in your system. Or I would just hook up with some chick the night before and then go to church and be like, praise Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
and it's so interesting because that doesn't nullify your praise, but you have told yourself a lie that, I believe that Jesus is my Savior,
Yeah.
but He's certainly not my Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's because I was trying to fill something, like you said.
Yeah.
It was just because it wasn't porn, it was real life. I
Yeah.
was trying to fill this gap in my life of dealing with PTSD and coming home and
Yeah.
not knowing who I am.
Yeah.
And so I was chasing that next dopamine, or I was chasing that next, man, I almost died a couple of times. Now I'm going to live my life. I'm chasing these things. And it came to a point where it's funny, we're talking about saying things out loud and confessing out loud. My buddies that I was with yesterday, some of us haven't seen each other in a long time.
Yeah.
And they were all with me through that time.
Yeah.
And to just hear them say some of the stuff I did, I was like, man, like I told my wife pretty much all of that, but hearing it out loud again, even though it was 13 years ago, I was like, whoa.
And I think that's why it's so, I don't want to go on another tangent, but it's why, like, specifically as men, it's why it's so important that we have to talk to ourselves more than we listen to ourselves. Meaning that, like, our inner dialogue is more often than not good.
Yeah.
But when we speak life over ourselves, it's like, man, I'm chosen. I'm set apart. I have a purpose. You know, I'm going to defend, you know, my wife against any and everything. Like, this is what I'm called to. This is, you know, I am a leader. It's not what I do. This is who I am. So, like, when I speak life over myself in my situation, it's not trying to be like name it and claim it, but it's this like recalibration of, man, I've got these negative thoughts, and part of me, you know, 2 Corinthians 10:5, like making, you know, taking every thought captive and making it obedient to Jesus. It's military terminology.
Yeah.
It's I interrogate the thought and I determine, because I know the Word of God and it's written on my heart, I can discern this thought is not only not true, this is not from God. And if it's not from God, it's from Satan. You know, so I'm going to cast the thought aside because thoughts are like train. They're going to take me somewhere. So I'm going to say, I don't want to go where this thought is taking me, so I'm going to reject you. So even if I think something, man, I'm not going to trust my gut. I'm not going to trust my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm going to test them.
I love that. I got another. I love it.
I like the one part you said to it, you know, and sometime this is one of the few things that the Lord tells us to run from. Because I think it might have been Joby that I was listening to this sermon where he was saying, like, hey, like everything else in life, God says, hey, put on the full armor of God. Like, like if there's some dude trying to break into my truck, I think it was Joby, because if there's some dude trying to break into my truck, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab me and my buddies. We're going to suit up, and we're going to go kick the crap out of that person. He goes, if I walk out to my truck and my ex-girlfriend is sitting in my truck wearing something scandalous, I'm running the other direction. He's like, that's the one thing that God says, no, don't put on the full armor of God and go after it. No, flee. Run. Get away from it. And it's like, I feel like there's this misconception too in the church of, well, you just got to suit up and you got to, nah, man, flee from it. Like,
I think
there's a moment to flee.
I mean, just that the whole, I mean, this is another conversation, but just like what it means to be, you know, like biblical manhood. It's like, there's so many like secularized like things that we pulled into even the church. It was like, man, this is what it means to be a man. And it's like, man, if you look at the Bible and you compare and contrast, it's like, man, we're a bit off on a lot of those things. But I mean, to again, Pastor Joby, I love the way he talks about just sin in general. It's like, man, the funny thing that he says about hunting being a sport, he's like, man, if you're hunting a deer, only one person's playing the game. Like they're going to breakfast, you know? But we can be like that. If we don't acknowledge that there is, you know, a God of this world that is Satan, and there's a very strategic plan for your life. He knows your family history. He knows your proclivities. He knows your sin. And he has a plan to absolutely destroy your life, to ruin your home, to ruin your family. And he wants to rob you of your calling. And you are under attack. And if you don't understand that there is an enemy that wants to destroy you, then you're a sitting duck. And I don't want to be a sitting duck, and neither do you.
Well, I liked how Pastor Joby said, I'm going to end on a higher note. You and Pastor Joby both deconstructed my good dude, good dad name. Because I was listening to his sermon on Stand Firm and Act Like Men. And he was like, yeah, there's this step between where you're not quite a child, but you're not acting like a man. I call them dudes. And I was like, oh, come on, man. Are you kidding me right now?
From Orange County,
and then
dude
earlier,
is normal.
And then earlier you're like, well, no one's good. I was like, well, great. Between him and Pastor, I was kidding. I still want to have you on, Joby. So if you hear this. But, thank you so much for coming on, brother. That was so awesome. We we're so fortunate to have you this morning and be able to hang out and do this, and then get you here to preach tomorrow. But If people are looking to find you,
Yeah.
what is the bet? Like, can you shameless plug time? So I want
Yeah.
like website, social media. If you want to have him come and guest speak at your church, like
Yeah. So my website is kind of like one-stop shop. So joshuabroome.me. So Joshua Broome, E on my last name, and then .me. And my social media across the board is I am Joshua Broome.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
I'll
want
link
to say
that
thank you, man. Today's been like a very emotionally good day.
Yeah.
But like just crazy. And I said this to you earlier, but Jordan and I are finding ourselves more and more in conversations like this.
Yeah.
And it's not lost on us that this is a very unique position to be in.
Yeah.
And just want to say thank you. And to people that listen, like, thank you. Jordan and I leave this all the time and we're like, oh my gosh, like, whoa, that was something I didn't even know I needed to hear at the time, or the conversation I didn't know needed to happen, or valuable information that can make us better, to strive to be better. And so it's just, God is good.
I was telling Caitlin, I feel super blessed doing this podcast because I'm constantly, and it's not like Jordan's being so. I'm constantly finding myself in the room where I feel like the least qualified to be in the room, and it's a total blessing to be doing that and to have people such as yourself here and having you on as my partner in this. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah,
It's
of
so
course.
important. I would say thank you for talking about, porn and sexual sin, because, man, what the data says, this clearly, it's like, man, fatherlessness is the greatest predictor of any and everything that we would say is the most problematic in westernized culture.
Yeah.
And what is the primary contributor to divorce or fatherlessness is pornography. And it leads to 52% of all of the divorce that happens, in the U.S. And I'm glad that you guys are willing to talk about the things that some people want to shy away from.
Yeah.
So,
It's one of the things I love about Pastor Keith, though, too, having you preach on Sunday. I feel like in today's modern church, it might get, brushed upon.
Yeah.
But I feel like, it's becoming more and more relevant.
Yeah.
But having someone on a Sunday
Yeah.
go out and share like what is real. There's going to be guys there tomorrow that weren't there today that I guarantee you are dealing with it.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like we want to be that platform that is a resource and genuinely can help change someone's life. And I this is something that can change someone's life.
I selfishly want to do a podcast with my wife sometime as a guest because on the flip side of talking about pornography, I would love to eventually do a podcast where we talk about how wives accept hearing that news.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, I willfully broke my wife's heart, but her response was, she didn't make me sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
And she didn't talk bad about me, and she didn't,
Yeah.
she loved me through my honesty.
Yeah.
And I think there's a whole other conversation that needs to be had. And I don't know how that eventually is going to work, but with women, and knowing like how to help, like it's the man's job but there's a woman's aspect to it.
Yeah.
I will sit over there and let you guys do that.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
saying
kidding. I'm kidding.
I think that would be
So Hope and I just did a whole course
Did you?
on that for exo marriage.
Okay, guys, you need to go check that out because that's
Yeah.
that's something that's been on my heart that I'm like that's a conversation that needs to be had too.
Yeah.
That because I've heard stories of husbands coming out and they're confessing to their wives, like, hey, like this is something that I struggled with, and the wife's reaction completely, like, obviously, you can't take away the sin part of what the man did, but like the wife's reaction to it just crazy. And it was like,
there's so much complexity to it because you won't tell her because you don't want to hurt her,
right?
But who is that actually for?
Yeah,
It's not. It's for you.
Yeah.
And and I would segue that into, as our kids get older, man, I don't want to talk to them about sex because I don't think they're ready. What's more true?
You're not ready.
You're not ready.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like we say with selfish ambition that we don't want to do something that is God honoring and actually really loving. But what that does is, man, if I don't say that, in my mind, I create this, you know, this line where there's this covenantal line that I've, you know, adhered to, and I'm not going to cross it, you know. But when I do something I ought not do, and in some way I justify it not being brought into the light, what I'm saying is it's okay. And then what happens is when I say that's okay, the line that used to be really clear that's in the sand is now blurry. And it's going to be so easy for me to drift over it. And that's the conversation that I have like so often. How did I blow up my marriage? Well, it was, you know, a lot of times pornography or something in that, it's like there was some compromise that I said, I've got this under control. This is not a big deal. I don't need to tell anyone. I got this. Yeah. And, you know, and as we all know, when you think you got it,
you don't got it. You don't got it. And I think that is a perfect place to end it. You don't got it.
Yeah.
So thank you again, guys. As always, check the show notes down below. Go to joshuabroome.me and you know, have him come out, have him come speak at your church, or DM him. But as always, guys, remember, be a good dude, be a good dad.